Tusks up, Utah Mammoth fans. Welcome back into another Utah Mammoth Daily. So today, it's just going to be about trades. Who likes trades? Everybody. Everybody likes trades. So let's talk about the rumor mill right now. So right now, the big news is Chris Drury, the GM of the New York Rangers, is saying he's listening in on calls for all of his players except for like Igor Shesterkin, which is fair. You don't listen on calls for one of the best three goaltenders in the league, so that's fair. But other than that, rumors are abounding about, obviously, Artemi Panarin. He is out of contract at the end of the year, so that's a very high-cost rental for a team that is going to be going for a cup. Not for a playoff appearance, but for a cup. So that prices Panarin out of Utah. That does leave Mika Zibanejad. Yeah, the guy I've been banging the drum about, alone. But still, I've been banging the drum about to go get. He has a huge cap hit, to be sure. It's around $9 million. Luckily for the Mammoth, they have roughly that much, and they can send back draft capital along with some contracts to balance the spreadsheet there. So the Rangers are listening in. They did the same thing last year, and they moved a couple of really big pieces. So Chris Drury's not afraid to pull the trigger on anything. He has said it does need to be a like-for-like swap, but with how far the Rangers have fallen, especially without Shesterkin, Jonathan Quick is great. He is fantastic Hall of Fame goalkeeper. Nothing more can really be said about Jonathan Quick, but he's older than me, and I can't imagine playing hockey at 35. So, it'll be fun to watch that one as well. Yesterday there was a couple of things that were going to be fun to watch on the Mammoth themselves, but with the Rangers, the Mammoth, they have the capital. They have the bits and bobs that teams want, and if a team wants to reset and reload for next season, the Mammoth are in prime position to really poach, jump, whatever you want to call it, jump in on that situation. So what draft capital does the Mammoth have? Because, you hear pundits talk about it all the time. You hear, this idiot talk about it a lot. So what do they have? Well, they have a lot when it comes to just draft capital to send the other way. They have all of their first-round picks going back, going through 2029. Utah owns all their own first-round picks. That's something a lot of teams can't say. Maple Leafs being chief among them. The Oilers as well. So the Mammoth have a bunch of picks in the first round for the next 4 years. Not a bunch of picks, but they have their own, which, like I said. And then in the second round, they've got 3 this season. Obviously, they have their own. They have Ottawa's, and they have the Rangers' second-round pick. And then this year as well, they also have 2 third-round picks, the Hurricanes and their own. And they also have the Blackhawks' fifth-round pick as well as their own. So the Mammoth own all of their own picks except for the 6th rounder this year that they swapped with Chicago for Chicago's 5th round pick. And then that was a whole bunch of contract buyouts, moving spots and everything. So it was a very balancing the spreadsheet sort of trade that did not make any headlines, but it does matter now as far as draft capital for Bill Armstrong to go out and get something from a team that might be, just saying, all right, we're going to circle the wagons and we're just going to, get rid of bits and pieces that aren't in our future. So that is the draft capital that Utah has. It's quite a bit when you look at the grand scheme of things. So I would love to see a big old package of draft picks, maybe a prospect and an NHLer that will be going away to get a guy. And a guy is what Utah needs. Because when you look at the biggest teams, the teams like the Stars, Avalanche, the Wild, obviously looking up at those, even the Golden Knights, you have guys that have 50, 60 points. And if it's the Avalanche, they've got 70 points. But on Utah, the tops is Clayton Keller in the 40s. So that kind of shows you the gap a little bit that Utah needs to close. Dylan Guenther is still just awesome. ESPN, those guys were saying, John Tortorella was saying that Dylan Guenther might be the best player Utah has. I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit and say, hey, Logan Cooley. Just because Logan Cooley's out doesn't mean we need to forget about him. And Clayton Keller is still fantastic. So it's high praise from Tortorella, but it's not the whole picture. And I love hearing it too. So the future is still bright as well with what Utah has. So let's talk about some of the youth that could be moved. So the big names that other teams are going to want are obviously Caleb Desnoyers, Tidge Aginla, and Maverick Lamoureux. Those are the ones all the other teams want when it comes to trade discussions with the Mammoth. Those are ones that I know GM Bill Armstrong is not going to move. Those guys are firmly in the future unless he gets a controllable superstar like an Austin Matthews type to pry those guys from the Mammoth. And that trade just won't happen. I could dream about it. I can't even make that dream a reality in NHL 26. So, that's how much it's not going to happen. So those guys aren't going anywhere. But guys that could move and could be tantalizing for another team to move a I don't want to say a star player, but a very, very good player are listed on your screen there, and there are a couple more. So Artem Duda is a very good left-handed defenseman, but Utah's kind of stocked up on those at the moment. Utah has a lot of left-handed defensemen, so he's kind of stuck in the pecking order a little bit. He's very solid. I think he could be a top 4 defenseman. Other than that, Cole Baudouin, he's a very good centerman. I think if Utah stands pat, I think he'll be up in the NHL next year. I hope Utah doesn't stand pat. I'd love to see them make a move, but if they do decide this is the roster we're going to go with, lumps, come what may, Cole Baudouin is going to hit the NHL next year, I think, along with Caleb Desnoyers. Like, the youth movement, like, it's now, pretty much. So, Cole Baudouin could be another one. Nate Hebig is another one who's doing very well in Tucson. He's another interesting, tantalizing forward for people to look at, maybe add a little bit of spice to the pot for whatever trade might happen. And then Ben McCartney. He is leading the Tucson Roadrunners in points. He is a associate captain for the team. And he's pretty close to NHL ready as well. So that is another piece that a lot of people aren't looking at least, journalists and whatnot, and prognosticators and talking heads like myself. They're not really looking at him. I think a GM is looking really hard at him and saying, okay, he's leading that team in points. There's talent all around him. He's still getting goals, but he's also facilitating very well. All right, we'll throw him in the pot and see what happens. So those are the big ones for me, because right now Ben McCartney, when it comes to like his stats for the Tucson Roadrunners, 33 games played, 13 goals, 19 assists. So he's almost at a point per game clip, and his plus minus is +5. So that's really awesome. That's really good. That is something somebody looks like. And I said Nate Hebig. I'm sorry. It's Cameron Hebig. I'm such an idiot. Cameron Hebig is second on the team in points at 31. He's a goal scorer, 14 goals, 7 assists, and he has a +9. Like, you see what I'm saying? Those two guys could pique a little bit of interest in a trade. So let's dream big, shall we? And I'm not going to dream so big that these names are unattainable, but we've got Mika Zibanejad, the guy I'm banging the drum for. I really want to see him in these colors. But also, other than that, another guy I've talked a lot about, Rasmus Andersson. The Mammoth will not be the only team in on that trade. Everybody from Toronto to Edmonton to Carolina, Colorado, Dallas, even Minnesota is in on Rasmus Andersson because you have to be stupid to not be in on him. But he wants a long-term deal, and I don't know how many of those teams have the cap flexibility to do it, as well as the want to have him there for 5 years. That's the length I've been seeing coming out of Rasmus Andersson's camp. He wants a 5-year deal, which is fair. Hey, he's earned it. I think Utah could do it. I think Utah would be more than happy to say, yeah, 5 years, perfect. We'll slap you on the top line with Mikhail Sergachev, and then we'll have one of the best second pairings in the NHL with Sean Durzi and John Marino, and we'll let it go. Like, I would love that top 4 team. That would be awesome. So, looking at that, that's a possibility. Then there's Jordan Kyrou. He's going to get traded. He's not going to get traded. He's going to get traded. The Blues are winning. The Blues are losing. I don't know how strong the stomach is for ownership in St. Louis to go through that again, but maybe they just say pull the plug and let's start over. Maybe. I mean, if you look at the Central right now, you got Colorado and Dallas at the peak of their powers. They're going to be there for 2 to 3 years. and there's not going to be any drop-off, I don't think. Minnesota is right there as well. And then you have ascending teams in the Central like Utah and Chicago. That leaves Nashville and Chicago, or Nashville and St. Louis, and even Winnipeg a little bit, out in the cold. Because they're kind of at the peak of what they've got, and the Jets have fallen off a cliff after last year's President's Trophy. So you need to take the long run on that one. And then Philip Hronek. Why not get him? Really good defenseman. If you can't get Rasmus Andersson, get Hronek instead from Vancouver. I know Vancouver might not have the stomach to trade away another D-man after trading away the face of the franchise, but if they could get a return on that in the form of an NHL-ready guy right now, Nick Schmaltz, and maybe some draft capital, a second, third rounder on top of it, and then throw in an Artem Duda as a prospect coming up, that would be at least worth looking at, I think. But that is what I have for you today. Hit that subscribe button. Let me know your thoughts on the rumor mill. Will New York actually punt on all of their big-name superstars, or is it just smoke to get those guys playing better? I'm thinking it's more get smoke to get the guys playing better, but who knows? I mean, last year, Chris Drury punted on a couple of guys. So let me know your thoughts, and I will see you guys on Monday. Tusks up.